Pew Research Center did a study on different religions and your views of them. So they asked people to rate on a scale of 0 to 100, 0 being cold, like, nah, I don't like it, not buying it, right? To 100, which is really warm. I really like that religion, okay? So a big sample size here. They asked Americans, which religion came at the bottom? If you haven't figured this out yet, you're not really paying attention to the news. Yeah, Muslims, dead last. Rating of 40, meaning generally cold, closer to 0 than to 50, right? Or than to 100, I should say. All right, who came in second? Well, you look at this. Good for you, atheists. Normally they finish under Muslims, but the Islamophobia is so rampant now. Atheists have moved into this second to last spot. Okay, moving on up to the Upper East Side. Okay. Well, they might literally be there. Okay, third group, another fan favorite, Mormons. They don't get a lot of love either. 48, but now we're getting closer to the 50-point mark, right? 50 is in the middle, neither warm nor cold. And in fact, Hindus are at 50 because people are generally confused by them. I don't know, Hindus, okay. I'm not warm, I'm not cold. Okay. Apparently that's what Americans think. Next on the list is Buddhists, 53%. We know some Buddhists. Richard Gere, I think, is a Buddhist. They seem like generally lovely people. We're slightly warm towards them, but not really that warm. Evangelical Christians at number 2. No, number 3, I should say, at 61. Now, understand why they rank a little higher. There's many different reasons, but one of them is that there are more evangelical Christians in the country, and they also vote in this poll. So evangelical Christians, they're like, oh, yeah, that, really high. We're great. Okay, so about 32% of the country is evangelical Christians. That's a big number, right? But nonetheless, Catholics, who are only 20% of the country, came in a little higher at number 2 at 62%. Good for them. Now, here comes the shocking number 1. Jews at 63. For the first time in 2,000 years, Jews, the most liked religion in America. Well, a little shorter because it's America. So in about 500 years or so. It's been a long time coming. Jews, you finally made it. Okay. Hey, you know what? I'll take it, man. Progress in America. Who would have thought Jews would have come in number 1? Now, of course, part of the reason is, now the Jews are not a huge category here, only about 2% of the country. So, of course, they rate themselves positively, as every group does. But evangelical Christians were very much in favor of Jews, partly because they've been taught in all the churches, Jews are the chosen people, that's what the Bible says. They have to get the promised land so that Jesus can come back and then kill everybody. Oh, ooh, that's a little inconvenient. But anyway, that's part of why they love the Jews. But apparently the feeling's not exactly mutual. This is fun. Evangelicals, according to Pew, also hold a very positive view of Jews, and white evangelical Protestants giving Jews an average thermometer rating of 69. Only Jews themselves rate Jews more positively. But that warmth is not mutual. Despite evangelicals' warm feelings towards Jews, Jews tend to give evangelicals a much cooler rating, 34 on average. Now, that might have to do with history. History is that let's put it this way, Christian fundamentalists have not been kind to Jews throughout history, okay? So it's understandable to be a little wary. Plus, remember at the end of that fun movie of Armageddon, all the Jews die. So that's a little inconvenient. Now, 144,000 get saved. I believe some are Jewish converts. So if you convert at the last, say, Jesus, sorry, my God, I didn't know. Okay, then you're gonna get saved. So the end of the movie is not great for Jews. That's part of the reason why you have that disparity. Okay. Now, as to the Muslims, look, they, of course, did well among Muslims. They did very poorly in other categories, which I'll show you in a little bit. But I wanted to show you 2 positive things, the 2 groups that rated Muslims the most warmly that were not Muslim. Number 1, or number 2, actually, black Protestants. Way to be open-minded. That's partly because about 23% of Muslims in this country are black. So about a quarter are black. So black Protestants might know more black Muslims, which makes them more likely to support Muslims overall. Okay? And as you saw, they're agnostics. Yeah, that's right. The most open-minded, 47% in favor of Muslims. Now, don't get too carried away. Those are still below 50. Like, we're not really positive on you. We're just a little less negative than the rest. Okay, now, on atheists, who hated atheists the most and who liked atheists the most? You're not going to. First of all, of course, atheists, agnostics rated themselves the highest, but once you get beyond that, White evangelicals, unsurprisingly, at 25. No interest in atheists. Damn, that's cold. But look at that, another great showing here for Jews in this poll. Jews rated agnostics and atheists the best at 55, okay? And that's above 50. God bless the Jews. Apparently he has, because they're very well liked in America. Okay, great. So now, more distinctions here that I love. When asked about other non-Christian groups, evangelicals tend to express more negative views. White evangelicals assign Buddhists an average rating of 39, Hindus 38, Muslims 30, and atheists 25. The chilliness between evangelicals and atheists goes both ways. Atheists give evangelical Christians a cold rating of 28 on average. Okay, so not a lot of love lost there, okay? So, but I like that the evangelical Christians are still a little, ideologically consistent. They say, don't get me wrong, I can't stand the Muslims, but the atheists are even worse. Okay. So, and again, more evangelical Christians in the country, so they lift up all the other Christian groups because they vote higher for the other Christian groups. And they suppress the ratings of all the other groups because if they're not Christian, they rate them really, really low. Why? Because they're more fundamentalist, and you take it for good or for bad, they really believe in being Christian. And so if you're not Christian, they're not buying what you're selling. Okay? So now we go to the young for hope in this poll. Adults under the age of 30, for instance, give Muslims a neutral rating of 49 on average, whereas older adults give Muslims significantly more negative ratings, 42 among the ages of 30 to 49, 36 on average among those 50 to 64, and if you're above 65, you give Muslims only a 32. So the older you are, the more bigoted you are against Muslims. Yes, I use that word because, they're all human beings. If you are being perfectly, factual, as human beings, you would rate them all 50, right? Now, you can disagree about ideology, you can disagree about culture, but as human beings, an atheist is not more likely to be a lovely human being than an evangelical Christian. A Mormon is not more likely to be worse than a Buddhist, etc. But obviously, older Americans are, again, a little, I'm being kind by saying a little, discriminatory against Muslims, but younger Americans have them almost exactly where they should be. They have them at 49, right around that 50 ballpark, okay? Now, when we go to the young in terms of other categories, it's also good news. Fully 85% of Americans aged 65 and older describe themselves as Christian, compared with just 59% among adults under 30, 32% of whom identify as religious nuns. Now, N-O-N-E-S, obviously, not nuns as in N-U-N-S. That would be amazing. Okay, now I view that as good news because I'm agnostic. So it used to be, as you see with older Americans, 85% saying that they're religious. Now we got to knock that down to just a 2-to-1 ratio. 59% saying that they are religious and 32% saying I have no religion at all. Not bad. We're catching up. Okay, we're still hated, the atheists, right? Put atheist, agnostic, unaffiliated in one category. You can call it generally atheist, okay? We're still hated, but all of a sudden, we're rising, okay? Now, let's go to politics and the different views of the different political parties, Democrats and Republicans. This is not surprising, but the numbers are instructive. First of all, among for the Democrats, all the groups are bunched up in the middle. So it goes Jews at 62, Catholics 61, Buddhists 57, Hindus 54, evangelical Christians 53, Muslims 47, atheists 46, Mormons 44. Not bad. They're scrunched up in the middle and generally tolerant. I'm amused at how Mormons came in dead last among Democrats. Perhaps because Mitt Romney just ran for president and he was a Mormon. That might have something to do with it. Okay. Now for the Republicans, evangelical Christians, of course, way up top at 71. Jews trailing, but not by much, at 67. Catholics 66. Mormons were dropping down to 52, but they're still considered Christian. Buddhists, you're losing us at 49. Hindus 47, and then we fall off a cliff. Atheists at 34 and Muslims at 33. So for Republicans, they got no interest in atheists. They got no interest in Muslims. If you're not Christian, they generally don't have much of an interest in you either. They just don't hate you as much as they hate atheists and Muslims. By the way, if you're an atheist or unaffiliated, that's again a big category now. Among the young, it's 32%. Overall in the country, it's at least 14%. The Republicans have no use for you. They don't like you. They actively dislike you. If you're Muslim and you haven't figured out the Republicans don't like you, I don't think I could buy you a clue large enough. Okay, and finally, This, I think, is the most instructive fact in terms of what we learn, okay? They say knowing someone from a religious group is linked with having relatively more positive views of that group. Those who say they know someone who is Jewish, for example, give Jews an average thermometer rating of 69, compared with a rating of 55 among those who say they do not know anyone who is Jewish. It's a big 14-point difference there. Atheists receive a neutral rating of 50 on average from people who say they personally know an atheist, but they receive a cold rating of 29 from those who do not know an atheist. That's a gigantic 21-point difference. Similarly, Muslims get a neutral rating, 49 on average, from those who know a Muslim, and a cooler rating, 35, from those who do not know a Muslim. Okay, see, that is monumentally important. See, this is exactly what gay Americans went through, and they realized it's important for people to come out of the closet, because if people realize that they know someone gay, they go, wait a minute, now he doesn't quite seem demonic, he doesn't seem that evil, I know him, I like him, I love him, he might be a family member, right? So I don't want to discriminate against him. This is natural human instincts. But there's not a lot of Muslims in the country. About 1 to 2% of the country is Muslim. So not a lot of people know Muslims. It's only about 30%, it's in the 30s, about 38% or so know any Muslim at all, okay? So since they don't know a lot of Muslims, they got cold ratings. But if you know a Muslim, they score exactly where they should be, right around the 50-point mark. They're at 49. Atheists, same way. If you know an atheist, you're like, well, I mean, Bob's not so bad. He's actually a pretty good guy. And they score at 50. So it's critical for people to get out there and meet more people, to open your mind, open your horizons, so that we could all be a little bit more understanding toward one another. And by the way, for Democrats as well, and for atheists and unaffiliated, if you don't know an evangelical Christian, they might seem like, oh my God, they got all these crazy fundamentalist ideas, and I don't like their ideology, hence I don't like them. But that's a fundamental mistake. Now, I, of course, growing up in America, knew plenty of evangelical Christians, and I know that some of them are questionable dudes who are playing out their inner demons with whatever religion they happen to be attached to, and some of them are the best people I've ever met in my life. So making generalizations, whether it's about Muslims, atheists, or evangelical Christians, is clearly the wrong way to go. We learn a lot from this survey, so I'm glad that Pew did it.